The Xindi homeworld erupted in a cacophony of alarms as the palace walls shook. Ektor, alien king of the Xindi, froze mid-sentence in his speech, mocking Earth's inferiority. His eyes went wide as reports flooded in. A massive human fleet had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Ektor had declared humanity primitive, divided, no threat to his empire, spanning dozens of star systems. He was wrong. For decades, Earth had secretly constructed a powerful armada in hidden solar system shipyards, led by Admiral Noah Miller, a brilliant, haunted man long preparing for this inevitable clash. Miller's ships, armed with cutting-edge graviton torpedoes and phase cloaking, struck without hesitation. Human forces rained fire on Xindi bases and supply lines as their outmatched foes scrambled in disarray. Ektor could barely process the reports of his installations falling one by one to the human onslaught. His fleet in ruins, his superweapon destroyed, a shocked Ektor fled his crumbling palace as human troops landed in force. In a final transmission, he swore dire vengeance. But humanity had just shattered the Xindi hegemony's aura of invincibility and announced itself as a rising power to be reckoned with. As the smoke cleared, Miller knew their troubles were only beginning. New threats would rise from the Xindi's ashes. Dark secrets from his past would resurface, and a mysterious alien artifact discovered in the ruins would herald a still greater danger lurking in the depths of space. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's future had just begun. The smoldering ruins of the Xindi palace still crackled with flames as Admiral Noah Miller strode through the rubble, his boots crunching on shattered glass and twisted metal. Around him, human soldiers secured the perimeter, their weapons trained on the shadows, alert for any sign of lingering resistance. Miller's comm crackled to life. "Admiral, General Wright is en route to the surface. ETA 10 minutes. "Copy that," Miller replied, his voice gruff with exhaustion and the weight of victory. He knew the real work was just beginning. As if on cue, a hovercraft bearing the emblem of the Terran Alliance touched down in the plaza, kicking up a cloud of ash and debris. The craft's hatch hissed open, and General Marcus Wright emerged, his battle-scarred armor gleaming in the dim light. "Admiral," Wright said, snapping off a salute, "the Xindi homeworld is secure. Most of the population is in shock, but compliant. Still, we're seeing pockets of armed resistance from Ektor's loyalists." Miller nodded grimly. "We'll need to move quickly to establish order and get essential services up and running. The Xindi people need to see that we're here to help, not conquer." "Understood, sir," Wright replied. "I'll coordinate with local leaders and get a temporary governing council in place." As Wright barked orders to his subordinates, Miller's thoughts turned to the challenges ahead. Integrating the Xindi into the human-led galactic order would be a delicate balancing act, one that required both strength and diplomacy. A ping from his wrist communicator jolted Miller from his musings. The message was tagged with the highest level of encryption, for his eyes only. Miller's brow furrowed as he read the terse lines of text. "Admiral, we've found something in the ruins of the ancient temple, an artifact of unknown origin, emitting strange energy readings. Dr. Tanari believes it could be a key to unlocking the secrets of a long-lost civilization. Requesting immediate science team and security detail. Advise extreme caution. The artifact's power is unsettling." The message was signed by Dr. Alara Tanari, a name Miller knew well. Tanari was a brilliant Xindi archaeologist, one of the few who had openly opposed Ektor's regime. If she said the artifact was significant, Miller was inclined to believe her. "Right," Miller called out, his voice cutting through the din of activity. "I need a science team prepped and ready to go in 30 minutes. And assemble a security detail, our best people. We've got a priority mission." As Miller watched his people spring into action, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something vast and dangerous. The Xindi were defeated, but somehow he knew the real fight was just beginning. The figure leaned forward, pale eyes gleaming in the darkness. On the monitor, an image of the artifact rotated slowly, its surface covered in strange, shimmering glyphs. "And what a game it will be," the figure whispered, a smile playing at the corners of its thin lips. "A game that will decide the fate of the stars itself." Admiral Miller's comm unit chirped urgently. He tapped the device, frowning at the encrypted message that scrolled across its small screen. His eyes widened as he deciphered its contents. As if to punctuate Miller's words, a distant explosion rocked the ground. Plumes of smoke rose from the city's eastern quarter. "Damn it," Miller growled. "Get me a secure line to Captain Vega. I want her team on this immediately." A cold dread settled in Miller's gut. He'd always admired Vega's tactical brilliance, but lately something in her eyes had changed. A hardness, a hunger he couldn't quite place. "Find her," Miller ordered, "and double the security on the artifact research facility. I don't like coincidences." As Wright hurried to comply, Miller's comm chirped again. Dr. Tanari's voice crackled through, tinged with panic. The transmission cut off abruptly. Miller's blood ran cold. "Sir," a young lieutenant ran up, breathless. "It's Captain Vega. She's commandeered the UES Valor. Half the fleet is following her lead." As his officers scrambled to act, Miller's comm unit lit up once more. An unknown signal, encrypted beyond anything he'd seen before. He hesitated, then accepted the transmission. Kyriel's lips curved in what might have been a smile. "Because, Admiral, the artifact your Captain Vega seeks is far more dangerous than you can imagine. In the wrong hands, it could reshape the very fabric of reality. We cannot allow that to happen." Miller weighed his options. With Vega's forces in orbit and chaos erupting planetside, he was running out of choices. Kyriel's eyes gleamed. "An alliance, Admiral. Our technology, your willpower. Together, we can stop Vega and secure the artifact. But make no mistake, this is only the beginning. The game, as you humans say, is about to change." Miller's gut churned as he processed Kyriel's offer. The ground shook beneath his feet as another explosion rocked the city. He had no time for deliberation. "Agreed," he said, locking eyes with the Andari. "Let's move." As they approached, Miller's heart sank. The facility was a smoking ruin, its defenses shattered. Vega's ship, the UES Valor, loomed over the destruction like a vulture. "We're too late," Kyriel hissed, his iridescent skin pulsing with agitation. The shuttle's sensors blared. The Valor's engines flared to life, the massive ship turning ponderously. "She's running," Miller growled. He keyed his comm. "All ships, this is Admiral Miller. The Valor is to be disabled immediately. Do not let Captain Vega escape." The space around them erupted in weapons fire as loyalist ships engaged Vega's rogue forces. The Andari shuttle wove through the melee, its advanced technology allowing it to close rapidly on the Valor. Miller allowed himself a grim smile. "Good. Prepare boarding teams." His words died as a small, sleek craft detached from the Valor's docking bay. It shimmered and vanished, its cloaking field engaged. "No!" Kyriel's eyes blazed with alien fire. "She has the artifact. We cannot let her escape." Miller's fists clenched. He'd known Vrel for years, never suspecting the depths of her ambition. Kyriel's eyes seemed to look through Miller, seeing something beyond human perception. "It is a key," the Andari said softly. "A key to dimensions beyond your comprehension. In the wrong hands, it could unleash horrors that would make your Xindi war look like a child's game." Miller nodded, his commitment hardening. "Then we have no choice. We pursue Vega into the Krios Nebula." He turned to his assembled officers. "This is a volunteer mission only. What we're about to face, I can't order anyone to follow me into that hell." To a person, they stood straighter, chins raised in defiance of the danger ahead. Miller allowed himself a small, proud smile. "Then let's go defend the cosmos." The combined human and Andari fleet jumped to hyperspace, racing towards the Krios Nebula. As the swirling vortex engulfed his ship, Miller couldn't shake the feeling that they were hurtling towards something far darker and more dangerous than anything he'd faced before. The artifact's pulsing energy faded as Miller's fleet emerged from hyperspace, battered but intact. The Admiral's eyes scanned the tactical display, cataloging their losses. Too many good ships and brave souls sacrificed to Vega's madness. Captain Armstrong stepped forward, her uniform singed and torn. "We've pushed Vega back, sir. The rift is closed, for now. But she still has the artifact." A priority transmission cut through the somber atmosphere of the bridge. General Wright's face materialized on the main view screen, his expression taut with urgency. "Admiral, I bring grim tidings from Earth," Wright began without preamble. "Senator Cartwright has seized control. The legitimate government is no more." Miller's fists clenched as Wright detailed the coup. Cartwright's expansionist regime now controlled Earth's formidable military-industrial complex, churning out warships at an alarming rate. Before Miller could fully process this blow, another urgent message flashed across his console. Dr. Tanari's face appeared, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and fear. "Admiral, I've decrypted more data on the artifact," she said, words tumbling out in a rush. "It's of Archilian origin, an ancient precursor race. They created it to seed new realities, but their experiments destabilized existence itself. The artifact is all that remains of their civilization, a living archive of knowledge." Tanari's expression hardened. "We can never let it be reactivated. The consequences would be unthinkable." Miller's mind raced, weighing impossible choices. Earth turned hostile, Vega in possession of a reality-warping weapon, and his own forces stretched to the breaking point. He turned to Armstrong and Cole, his most trusted captains. "You two, take what ships we can spare. Find Vega's base and neutralize that artifact by any means necessary." "And you, sir?" Armstrong asked, already knowing the answer. Miller's eyes sharp in a hard line. "I'm going home. We need to stop Cartwright before she can unleash her new fleet on the galaxy." As the bridge erupted into controlled chaos, preparations underway for their audacious attempt, Miller didn't notice the brief flicker of static across the long-range sensors. In the vast emptiness of space, something alien and hungry stirred, drawn by the artifact's awakening. Admiral Vrel, secure in her hidden base, smiled as she watched the chittering, writhing mass of the Urbine emissary. The rift had given her new allies, ones that would ensure her dominion over all reality. "The bargain is struck," Vrel purred, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "Activate the artifact fully, and your armadas will have free rein to consume all they desire." "Captain Armstrong, Dr. Cole," he addressed them, his voice firm. "Your mission is clear. Find Vega, neutralize that artifact. The fate of reality itself may depend on your success." As the two officers departed, Miller turned to the rest of his command staff. "Our task is no less vital. Earth has fallen to Cartwright's expansionist regime. We're going home to take it back." Miller's calm crackled to life. "Admiral," General Wright's gruff voice came through. "My loyalists are in position. We're ready to begin the uprising on your command." "Understood, General," Miller replied. "Commence Operation Lighthouse." The battle for Earth erupted in a fury of weapons fire and explosions. Miller's forces engaged Cartwright's fleet in orbit, while Wright's ground teams struck key military installations. For a moment, it seemed they might have the element of surprise. Then the sky lit up with the arrival of Cartwright's elite Praetorian Guard. Massive cedar warships, their hulls overflowing with weapons, moved into formation with unnatural precision. Miller's eyes narrowed as he watched the battle unfold. The expansionist ships moved with an efficiency that surpassed human reflexes. "It's an AI," he realized aloud. "Cartwright's got some kind of adaptive combat system controlling those ships." As Miller's forces struggled against the relentless assault, light years away, Captain Armstrong's team pursued a ghost trail through uncharted space. Long-range sensors picked up unusual energy fluctuations from a rogue planet drifting in the void between stars. "It's slain!" Dr. Cole shouted over the comm, recognizing the ruthlessly efficient attack patterns. "Vega's enforcer." Meanwhile, in the diplomatic halls of the Galactic Core, Kyriel of the Andari pleaded her case to a gathering of alien dignitaries. Her iridescent skin pulsed with urgency as she spoke. "The Urbine threat is real," she insisted. "If we do not unite against this extra-dimensional incursion, all our civilizations will fall." "At last," Vrel breathed, her eyes reflecting the swirling vortex. "Let the invasion begin." The battle for the fate of all existence had begun. The swirling vortex of the Urbine invasion spread like cosmic cancer, devouring star systems in its wake. Admiral Miller's face was grim as he absorbed the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The situation was deteriorating faster than anyone had anticipated. Miller's orders crackled across subspace. "Captain Armstrong, your team will engage Vega directly. Stop her from fully activating that artifact at all costs." "Understood, sir," Armstrong's voice came back, tense but determined. The Admiral's attention shifted to the dire situation on Earth. "General Wright, continue pressing the ground assault. I'm sending you reinforcements, but be prepared for heavy resistance." "Get me Sonia Malik," he barked. Moments later, the face of humanity's most brilliant hacker appeared on screen. Miller wasted no time with pleasantries. "Sonia, I need you to assemble a cyber ops team. Your mission? Infiltrate and corrupt the AI controlling those cedar ships." Malik's eyes widened, but she nodded. "It's suicide, but I'm in." As Miller coordinated the multi-pronged assault, Armstrong's team closed in on Vega's heavily fortified base. The artifact's pulsing energy signature grew stronger as they approached. "Multiple contacts!" Armstrong's pilot shouted as planetary defense cannons opened fire. Their shuttle lurched violently, barely evading the barrage. They crash-landed hard, the shuttle's hull screaming as it tore across the barren landscape. Armstrong dragged herself from the wreckage, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead. "Status report," she called out. Dr. Tenari emerged cradling a battered datapad. "Barely operational, but I've still got readings on the artifact." A hail of weapons fire cut off any further discussion. Elite shock troopers, their armor gleaming with an otherworldly sheen, advanced on their position. "Take cover!" Armstrong shouted, returning fire. The battle raged across the desolate planetoid, Armstrong's team fighting tooth and nail towards the central command structure. Suddenly, a blur of motion caught Armstrong's eye. She turned, barely raising her weapon in time to deflect a vibroblade aimed at her throat. Cassius Slane, Vega's personal assassin, seemed to materialize from the shadows. His eyes, cold and predatory, locked onto Armstrong as he pressed his attack. Meanwhile, on Earth, the urban sprawl of Neo-Tokyo had become a war zone. General Wright's troops inched forward, but the swarms of cedar ships made every block a bloodbath. Outside, the battle raged. Wright watched in horror as another wave of cedar ships descended, their weapons tearing through his defensive lines. "We are out of time," Kirill declared. "The Takor have offered their aid. We must accept." Murmurs of protest rose from the gathered aliens, but Kirill silenced them with a gesture. "You have not seen what I have seen. The price is high, but the alternative is extinction." "At last," Varel breathed, her eyes reflecting the swirling vortex. "Our conquest begins now." Varel's eyes widened in shock as the true horror of her actions began to dawn on her. Through the rift, the first tendrils of the urban main armada began to emerge. Back on Earth, Admiral Miller received Armstrong's transmission. His face hardened as he absorbed the full implications of the threat they now faced. Admiral Miller's face was ashen as he absorbed the full implications of Armstrong's transmission. The Genesis protocols wouldn't be enough. He turned to his communications officer. "Get me Kirill of the Endari, now." Moments later, the iridescent form of the Endari matriarch shimmered on the monitor. Miller spoke without preamble. "We need the Takor. Whatever their price, I'll pay it." Kirill's eyes flashed. "You understand what this means, Admiral? The Takor will demand total control." The transition happened swiftly. Grand Admiral Xavius of the Takor materialized on the bridge of the UES Intrepid, its quicksilver form rippling with barely suppressed power. "Your fleets are ours now, human," it intoned. Before Miller could respond, alarms blared. The first wave of Urbine constructs emerged from the rift, their writhing forms defying description. Xavius raised a shimmering appendage, and a swarm of Takor vessels decloaked around them. "Witness our might," Xavius hummed. On Earth, Sonia Malik's fingers flew across holographic interfaces. Sweat beaded on her brow as she pushed deeper into the expansionist AI's defenses. "We're close," she muttered. "Just need to—" A triumphant beep echoed through the cramped bunker. Malik's eyes widened. "We're in! Cedar ship control is ours. Outside, the tide of battle shifted. Cedar ships turned their weapons on Cartwright's troops, sowing chaos in the expansionist ranks. General Wright seized the opportunity, pushing his rebel forces forward through the streets of Neo-Tokyo. But even as they gained ground, a new threat emerged. In a fortified bunker deep beneath the city, Regina Cartwright stood before a gleaming missile silo. "If I can't rule Earth," she snarled, "no one will." Her hand hovered over the launch controls for experimental antimatter warheads. Miller's depleted human fleet raced to defend key systems from Cartwright's threat. He dispatched covert teams to locate and neutralize the hidden missile bunkers. Every second counted. "We're running out of time," Dr. Tanari shouted, her cybernetic implants sparking from overuse. Armstrong nodded grimly. "Push forward. We have to reach that rift." Armstrong's team finally breached the rift chamber. The artifact pulsed with otherworldly energy, tendrils of power stretching into the yawning portal. But before they could act, a nightmarish figure emerged from the shadows. Admiral Vega stood before them, her form twisted and mutated by the artifact's energies. Extra limbs writhed from her torso, her skin mottled with alien geometries. "You're too late," she hissed in a voice that echoed across dimensions. Armstrong raised her weapon, but Vega was too fast. She lashed out with impossible speed, sending Armstrong flying. As they clashed, Dr. Tanari stumbled towards the artifact's control interface. "Captain," Tanari shouted, "I can destabilize it, but the feedback, I won't survive." Armstrong ducked under one of Vega's attacks. "Do it!" Tanari jacked her implants directly into the alien technology. Her body convulsed as she bombarded the artifact with a continuous data burst. The rift fluctuated wildly, energy arcing out in all directions. Vega screamed in rage and pain as her connection to the artifact wavered. Armstrong seized the opening, unleashing a barrage that forced the mutated admiral back. Outside, the Andori ships faltered against Vrel's augmented defenses. A handful of urban scouts slipped through the collapsing rift. But before they could gain a foothold, space lit up with unimaginable energies. Ticker Terrafusion solar lances lashed out, precise beams of devastation that reduced the Urbine to vapor. The rift collapsed with a thunderous implosion, sealing shut. Armstrong helped Tanari's motionless form to the ground, checking for signs of life. But before she could process their victory, proximity alarms blared. New rifts were opening across the galaxy. The Urbine capital constructs were already manifesting. Admiral Miller's eyes hardened as he absorbed the full implications of their dire situation. The Takor's devastating power had bought them precious moments, but the urban threat loomed larger than ever. He turned to Grand Admiral Xavius, the alien's quicksilver form shimmering with almost unchecked energy. Xavius's form rippled, a gesture Miller had come to recognize as contemplation. "It is possible, but the price will be steep." "Name it," Miller growled. "Earth. We require your homeworld as a forward base against the Urbine contagion." Miller's fists clenched, his nails digging into his palms. The weight of billions of lives pressed down on him, threatening to crush his commitment. But there was no other choice. He took a deep breath and nodded. The next hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. On Earth's surface, Wright's troops clashed with Cartwright's Praetorian Guard, buying time for terrified civilians to board evacuation ships. In orbit, Miller's depleted fleet regrouped, preparing for one final, desperate assault. Captain Armstrong stood on the bridge of Miller's flagship, her face set in iron will as she studied the tactical displays. Beside her, Captain Cole, a grizzled veteran of a dozen campaigns, checked weapon systems. "We're really doing this," Armstrong muttered, more to herself than anyone else. Outside the viewports, space lit up with impossible energies as Takor ships bombarded carefully calculated points in the void. Reality itself seemed to scream as a yawning chasm tore open, mirroring the rift created by the artifact. Almost massive urban constructs began to materialize. Their writhing, otherworldly forms defied description, sending waves of revulsion through even the most hardened crew members. "All ships, attack pattern Omega," Miller's voice crackled over the comms. "Clear a path for the flagship." Armstrong gripped the command rail as the ship lurched into motion, Energy weapons lashed out, pummeling the Urbine monstrosities. But for every construct they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. "We're not going to make it," Cole growled, his fingers dancing across his console as he redirected power to failing shields. Just then, a new contact appeared on their sensors. Admiral Vrel's ship, dripping with artifact-enhanced weaponry, tore into the Urbine's flank. "Consider this my penance," Vrel's voice came through, strained but determined. With Vrel's timely assistance, Miller's flagship punched through the Urbine line. They plunged into the rift, reality twisting around them in nightmarish patterns. Before Armstrong could respond, proximity alarms blared. A massive construct loomed before them, pulsing with otherworldly power. Understanding dawned on Armstrong. This was the nexus, the heart of the Urbine invasion. Miller's voice cut through the chaos. "We only get one shot at this. Prepare for ramming speed." Armstrong's hands flew across her console, plotting their final course. The ship's engines screamed in protest as they pushed beyond all safety limits. "It's been an honor," Miller said, his voice calm despite everything. The flagship plowed into the Nexus construct. In the split second before impact, Armstrong saw Miller hit his fist down on the detonator for the Takor payload. She blinked, disoriented. Somehow, impossibly, she was still alive. The bridge around her was in ruins, most systems offline. Through the cracked viewports, she saw the swirling chaos of the urban realm beginning to collapse in on itself. As if in answer, a new rift tore open before them. An Andari cruiser's sleek form emerged, tractor beams locking onto the crippled flagship. "This is Kyriel," a familiar voice crackled through the static-filled comms. "Hold on, we're bringing you home." Armstrong's hands trembled as she released her grip on the command rail. The Andari cruiser's tractor beam pulled Miller's crippled flagship through the rift, leaving behind the collapsing realm of the Urbine. As they emerged into normal space, the view screen filled with the aftermath of devastation. Captain Cole limped to a partially functioning console. "Hull integrity at 12%, life support failing. We've got maybe an hour before—" His words trailed off as a proximity alert chirped. The sleek form of Kyriel's ship maneuvered alongside them, docking tubes extending to form an airtight seal. As the crew scrambled to safety, Armstrong made her way to the medbay. Dr. Tanari lay motionless on a gurney, her cybernetic implants still sparking and smoking. Armstrong gripped the doctor's hand. "We did it, Tanari. Armstrong leaned closer. "What about it?" The doctor's body convulsed, her implants giving one final surge before going dark. Armstrong closed Tanari's eyes, allowing herself a moment of grief before racing to join the evacuation. "Captain, we've detected multiple civilian Exodus convoys fleeing Earth," Kyriel reported. "General Wright's forces have made significant gains against Cartwright's regime, but Urbine constructs are still manifesting in key systems." Armstrong nodded grimly. "We need to rally every ship we can to protect those convoys. What's the status of the Takor?" Kyriel's form rippled, an expression Armstrong had come to recognize as concern. "They've begun establishing themselves on Earth, as per the agreement with Admiral Miller, but their intentions beyond that remain unclear." Before Armstrong could respond, a junior officer interrupted. "Captain, we're picking up a distress signal from the Cerberus sector. It's Admiral Vrel's dreadnought. The message claims she's discovered vital intelligence about remaining urban forces," the officer reported. "She's requesting immediate assistance and offering to defect in exchange for amnesty." Unbeknownst to Armstrong and her allies, Vrel's distress call was a carefully crafted ruse. Deep within an unstable wormhole cluster, the Admiral stood before a writhing mass of half-formed Urbine constructs. Their alien geometries hurt the eyes, defying known laws of physics. "Our bargain is struck," Vrel intoned, her voice echoing strangely in the reality-warped space. "You will have Earth, and through it, this entire dimension to consume. In return, I will rule what remains of humanity." Armstrong's fists clenched as she absorbed the latest intel from her hastily assembled war room aboard Kyriel's ship. Vrel's distress call had been a trap, as suspected, but the true nature of the Admiral's betrayal was far worse than imagined. Confirm this, Armstrong demanded, her voice tight with scarcely controlled fury. Captain Cole nodded grimly. Multiple deep cover assets verify it, ma'am. Vrel's made a pact with a splinter group of urban constructs. She's helping them regenerate using exotic matter from an unstable wormhole cluster. Armstrong's mind raced, analyzing the strategic implications. And in return? Before Armstrong could respond, a priority alert flashed across the main view screen. Grand Admiral Xavius's imposing form materialized, his quicksilver skin rippling with impossibly strong energy. The transmission cut off abruptly. Armstrong turned to her assembled officers, their faces a mix of shock and fierce dedication. Options, she barked. Cole spoke up first. We can't fight both Vrel's Urbine allies and the Takor, not with what's left of our fleet. A young officer with cybernetic enhancements stepped forward. Ma'am, I need you to lead a covert team, infiltrate Vrel's dreadnought, and sabotage her rift stabilization efforts. It's our only shot at delaying the Urbine long enough to deal with the Takor. Vandril's augmented eyes flashed as he processed the mission parameters. Understood, Captain. We'll get it done. The Andari matriarch's holographic form shimmered with concern. This plan borders on suicide, Captain. As the fleet surged into hyperspace, Armstrong couldn't shake the feeling that the fate of humanity hung by the thinnest of threads. The real test was only beginning. The fleet erupted from hyperspace, Earth's scarred visage filling the view screen. Armstrong's mind focused at the sight of Takor ships swarming like locusts around his homeworld. Status report, he barked. Armstrong nodded grimly. Maintain stealth protocols. We'll only get one shot at this. A proximity alert chirped, and Kyriel's holographic form materialized on the bridge. Captain, my ships are in position. We're ready to begin our diversion on your mark. Understood. And Kyriel, thank you. This is it. Everything we've fought for comes down to the next few hours. Chen, coordinate with Wright's ground teams. Cole, I want updates on that Urbine data the moment you have anything. As his crew scrambled to their stations, Armstrong's gaze returned to the view screen. Flashes of light peppered Earth's surface. Takor orbital strikes hammering civilian populations. Monsters, he muttered. A sudden commotion drew his attention. Dr. Cole's eyes were wide, his hands trembling as he pored over a datapad. The Takor have her. When her forces scattered during the rift collapse, they captured her. She's being held on Xavius's command ship. Change of plans, he announced. Kyriel, commence your attack. We're going after Xavius's flagship. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as Armstrong outlined his daring infiltration plan. Within minutes, a strike team was assembled in the hangar bay. Save it, Doctor. We're out of options and out of time. Damage report, Armstrong shouted over the din. Port engine's gone, the pilot responded, his voice tight with concentration. We're coming in hot. Metal screeched against metal as they skidded to a stop. Emergency klaxons wailed in the distance. Move out, Armstrong ordered, hefting his rifle. Find Vega and neutralize any resistance. The strike team fanned out, engaging Takor security forces in vicious close-quarters combat. Armstrong led the charge, his mind focused on a single goal, reaching the cryo-containment sector where Vega was surely held. As they fought their way deeper into the ship, Armstrong couldn't shake the feeling that they were being funneled toward something. His suspicions were confirmed as they breached a massive set of blast doors. There, suspended in a crackling energy field, floated Vega's twisted form, and standing before her, radiating cold malevolence, was Grand Admiral Xavius himself. Your heroics end here, human, Xavius continued. You've served your purpose in delivering the key to our ascension. What are you talking about? Armstrong growled, struggling against the unseen restraints. Horror dawned on Armstrong as the full scope of the Takor's plans became clear. Earth, humanity, even the Urbine, all were just stepping stones towards an unimaginable goal. Impossible, Xavius snarled, turning towards a nearby console. In one fluid motion, they broke free and opened fire. Armstrong's team erupted into action, weapons blazing. The Takor's momentary distraction proved fatal as concentrated fire tore through their silvery forms. Xavius whirled, his liquid metal skin rippling with rage. But Armstrong was already sprinting towards Vega's containment field. "Cole, the controls," he barked. "We need to move," Armstrong growled, hefting Vega over his shoulder. "Chen, secure our exit." The team fought their way back through the corridors, Takor reinforcements pouring in from all sides. Plasma bolts scorched the air as they reached their damaged shuttle. "It's scrap," the pilot reported grimly. They piled aboard, Armstrong taking the helm. The unfamiliar controls responded to his touch, the ship humming to life. With a roar of alien engines, they burst from the hangar bay. "We've got company," Chen reported, monitoring the sensor readouts. "A lot of company." "Patch me through to Dr. Cole," Armstrong ordered. "Later, Doctor. I need you to prep the artifact for transport. We're coming in hot." "Those are your orders," Armstrong cut him off. "We don't have time for debate." The stolen Takor ship screamed through space, hostile vessels in pursuit. Armstrong's hands danced across the controls, executing maneuvers that pushed the craft to its structural limits. Warning klaxons blared as they took glancing hits from enemy fire. Armstrong gritted his teeth, pushing the engines beyond their red line. The ship shuddered, threatening to tear itself apart. 10 seconds! They burst through the T-Core formation, Cole's vessel coming into view. Armstrong angled their trajectory, matching speed and vector. "Docking tube extended," Cole's voice crackled over the comm. "You've got one shot at this, Captain." With a bone-jarring impact, the ships connected. Armstrong's team scrambled through the docking tube, dragging Vega's unconscious form. "We're clear!" Chen shouted. Armstrong slammed the release, their stolen ship tumbling away as Cole's vessel surged forward. Takor fire lanced past them, missing by mere meters. Cole's face was grim. "It's ready, but Captain, what you're proposing is beyond dangerous. Using Vega as a conduit could—" "I know the risks," Armstrong cut him off. "But it's our only play. Set a course for the transdimensional nexus point." As Cole's ship accelerated away from the battle, Armstrong stared at the view screen. Earth grew smaller behind them, a fragile blue marble surrounded by the fires of war. He allowed himself a moment of doubt before squaring his shoulders. The transdimensional nexus point flared with blinding energy as Cole's ship breached the threshold. Reality itself seemed to buckle and warp around them. Armstrong gripped the command console, his fist clenched as the vessel shuddered violently. "Containment field at critical!" Cole shouted over the cacophony of alarms. "We can't hold it!" In that moment, Cole made a decision. He locked eyes with Armstrong, a look of stubborn persistence on his face. Before anyone could react, the scientist sprinted towards the artifact chamber. "Cole, no!" Armstrong yelled, but it was too late. The ship lurched, tumbling out of the collapsing rift. Emergency systems screamed as they struggled to compensate. Armstrong barked orders, his crew working frantically to stabilize their crippled vessel. "Captain!" Chen's voice cut through the silence. "Incoming transmission from Earth. It's General Wright." Wright's holographic form materialized, his face haggard and streaked with grime. "Armstrong, we need you here now. Takor Admiral Ventress has gone mad. He's bombarding every major city from orbit. Millions are dead already, and we can't hold out much longer." Armstrong's lips pursed. "Understood, General. We're on our way. Hold the line." The journey to Seoul was a gauntlet of hit-and-run engagements with Takor patrols. Armstrong's flagship took heavy damage, but Lieutenant Ortez's quick thinking saved them. Using Cole's recovered artifact data, he established a link with the Andari refugee fleet hiding in the asteroid belt. "Gravimetric corridor established," Ortez reported as the Andari ships generated a temporary wormhole. "We have our way in." Armstrong's remaining vessels surged through the opening, bursting into Earth's orbit amidst a storm of weapons fire. The planet below was a nightmare of smoke and flame, Takor ships raining destruction on population centers. As the human and Andari ships engaged the Takor armada, Armstrong led a strike team towards Ventress's flagship. Their assault craft weaved through the chaos of battle, dodging debris and energy blasts. They breached the T-Core vessel's hull with shaped charges, pouring into the alien corridors. Armstrong's Marines fought with desperate fury, pushing towards the command center. Armstrong raised his weapon. "It's over, Xavius. We're taking this ship and ending your bombardment." "You misunderstand the situation entirely," Xavius replied coldly. "This invasion is merely the beginning. Even now, more fleets approach to scour your worlds clean of life. On Mars, we prepare to reshape your very planets for our needs." Xavius continued, his tone almost bored. "I offer you one chance, human. Surrender unconditionally. Provide us with your labor and resources to rebuild the Dyson sphere. In exchange, a portion of your species will be permitted to survive under our rule. Then you will bear witness to the complete eradication of your kind," Xavius stated flatly. "Your choice, Captain, survival or extinction." As the hologram faded, leaving them alone in the silent command center, Armstrong's fingers tightened on his weapon. The weight of humanity's fate pressed down upon him. As his orders echoed across the battlefield, Armstrong turned to his team. "We're not done yet. We've got a long fight ahead of us." The T-Core ship's alarms began to wail as Armstrong's forces secured the bridge. Outside, the tide of battle shifted as human and Andari ships executed a series of coordinated maneuvers. The real test was only beginning. Armstrong's fingers flew across the alien console, inputting a series of complex codes. "Ortez, now!" Lieutenant Ortez's voice crackled over the comm. "Transmitting activation sequence. We're in. Earth's defense grid is online." The ship's view screen lit up with brilliant flashes as dormant missile silos across the planet roared to life. Nuclear-tipped ICBMs streaked into orbit, punching through the T-Core blockade. Ventress's flagship shuddered as nearby dreadnoughts were engulfed in atomic fire. "Sir," Chen called out, "T-Core fleet is in disarray. Ventress is hailing Xavius for reinforcements." Armstrong allowed himself a grim smile. "Not today. Initiate scrambler pulses." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Ventress isolated. Armstrong turned to the young officer at his side. "Ensign Talbot, you're up. Show us what that AI of yours can do." "Ground team, report," Armstrong barked into his comm. Colonel Adler's voice came through, punctuated by the sounds of close-quarters combat. "We've breached Xavius's bunker. Heavy resistance. Wait. Visual on primary target." Xavius's laughter was a cold, modulated sound. "Foolish human, you've merely hastened your own demise." The T-Core leader's form shimmered, projecting a holographic display of the outer solar system. New wormholes tore open the fabric of space, disgorging fresh T-Core armadas. "Behold the fury of the infinite empire," Xavius intoned. "If we cannot claim your worlds, we will reduce them to ash." The incoming fleet unleashed a hellstorm of plasma, targeting humanity's remaining orbital infrastructure. Armstrong watched in horror as habitats and shipyards were vaporized. Millions of lives snuffed out in an instant. "Options!" Armstrong demanded, his mind racing. "No time for pleasantries, Admiral," Armstrong cut in. "The T-Core are about to glass Earth and Mars. We need firepower, and we need it now." Vrel's chuckle was humorless. "As it happens, Captain, I have a proposition for you, one that might just save both our hides." "Do it," Armstrong ordered. "All units, prepare for Phase 2 of Operation Ragnarok." The bridge erupted into frenzied activity as Armstrong relayed Vrel's instructions. Outside, the titanic forces of two galactic powers collided, with humanity caught in the crossfire. The true test of their persistence was only beginning. Admiral Vrel's face flickered on the holographic display, her eyes gleaming with a predatory intensity. "The T-Core have overplayed their hand, Armstrong. We can use their own wormholes against them." Armstrong leaned forward, studying the tactical projections. "I'm listening." Vrel's plan unfolded rapidly. As she spoke, Armstrong's mind raced through the implications. It was audacious, bordering on insanity, but they were out of options. "Do it," Armstrong ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos on the bridge. "All units, prepare for Phase 2 of Operation Ragnarok." The video feed showed shimmering, half-formed constructs materializing around the wormhole's perimeter. Armstrong recognized them instantly. Urbine invasion units, desperately clinging to existence. Vrel's voice crackled over the comm. An opportunity presents itself, Captain. The Urbine seek to regenerate. They need resources, and Earth cities are ripe for the taking. It's a devil's bargain, Vrel admitted, but one that might save what's left of humanity. With time running out, Armstrong made the call. The unholy alliance was forged. The next phase unfolded with brutal efficiency. Vrel's expansionist dreadnoughts punched through the Takor blockade, drawing the bulk of their fleet away from Earth and Mars. In that moment of chaos, Ortez activated the modulated wormholes. All units, execute attack pattern Delta, Armstrong ordered. Establish beachhead on Phobos. The Martian moon loomed before them, its surface crawling with Takor drones. Marine dropships screamed through the thin atmosphere, plasma cannons blazing. On the ground, Armstrong's troops fought with desperate intensity, clearing hive after hive. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Wright's rebel cells erupted into action. Improvised explosives tore through Takor ground installations. Hijacked alien walkers stomped through city streets, their weapons turned against their former masters. Ventress, caught off guard, was forced to divert ships from the Martian bombardment. It was the opening Armstrong needed. "Target those orbital clusters," he barked. "Fire at will." On Mars, the urban constructs moved with terrifying purpose. They swarmed over abandoned colony domes and resource extraction facilities, consuming everything in their path. Raw materials dissolved into a shimmering fog, drawn into the half-formed alien matrices. Suddenly, alarms blared across every frequency. "Energy spike detected," Chen shouted. "It's Xavius. He's channeling power from Mars and the surrounding moons." Armstrong's eyes widened in horror as he realized Xavius's plan. "All ships, maximum thrust. Get clear of—" His words were cut off as a blinding flash erupted from the heart of the Takor fleet. The ether drive's apocalyptic energies lashed out in all directions. Armstrong watched helplessly as ship after ship, human, expansionist, and urban alike, were consumed by the searing wavefront. "Collision alert," the ship's AI warned. "Spatial anomaly detected." "Abandoned ship," Armstrong roared. "All hands to escape pods." As his flagship buckled and tore apart around him, Armstrong caught a final glimpse of Earth, humanity's cradle, now lost forever to the entropy of the void. The escape pod jettisoned, tumbling away from the cosmic maelstrom. Armstrong's fist clenched as he watched the singularity devour everything he had fought to protect. Earth, Mars, the Takor Armada, all of it erased from existence. Days later, as the battered remnants of humanity regrouped in the outer colonies, Armstrong stood before a makeshift war room. The faces that looked back at him were haggard, shell-shocked, but still alive. As the room erupted into grim discussion, Armstrong turned to stare out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Takor were regrouping, planning their next move. And beyond them, in the depths of uncharted space, other cosmic horrors waited. The singularity had changed everything. New fronts would open, new allies and enemies would emerge. But for now, all Armstrong could do was prepare for the battles to come. Armstrong's gaze swept across the makeshift war room, taking in the haggard faces of humanity's last defenders. The loss of Earth and Mars still burned, but there was no time for mourning. They had to act. Hours later, Armstrong's shuttle docked with a nondescript freighter deep in the Kuiper Belt. He found Vrel waiting in a Spartan conference room, her scaled features set in a grim mask. Armstrong nodded. "Strange times make for stranger bedfellows, Admiral." They got down to business, holographic displays flickering to life around them. Vrel's talon tapped a blinking point of light. "Our long-range sensors detected a familiar energy signature. It appears a Takor splinter fleet survived the cataclysm." "Uncertain," Vrel replied. "But their leader, Admiral Kavari, has expressed interest in negotiations." Armstrong's eyes narrowed. "Can we trust them?" Minutes later, the young officer arrived, his neural interface humming softly. Armstrong brought him up to speed. "I need you to analyze every scrap of data we have on that singularity." Armstrong ordered. Energy patterns, subspace resonance, anything that might give us a clue to its origin. Talbot nodded, his implants already processing the information. I'll get right on it, sir. Sir! The ensign's excited voice crackled over the comm. I've isolated a unique quantum signature. The singularity, it has a point of origin. That's where it all began, Armstrong mused, and where we might find a way to end it. He turned to Vrel. I'm taking a strike team. We need to get inside that outpost and find answers. Armstrong nodded grimly. Then we'll take them by force. He assembled his team, the unflappable Lieutenant Ortez, the battle-hardened Captain Adler, and a wildcard, Cassius Slane, a former expansionist operative vouched for by Vrel herself. Armstrong raised his weapon. We'll see about that. As they neared the core chamber, Slane's demeanor shifted. His eyes locked onto Armstrong with cold fury. This ends now, Captain. Before Armstrong could react, Slane's weapon discharged. White-hot pain exploded in Armstrong's side as he dove for cover. Betrayal burned hotter than the wound. You are too late, it intoned. The entropic purge cannot be stopped. Your universe will return to its primal state. Armstrong staggered to his feet as Adler limped into view. Slane's unconscious form slung over his shoulder. It's done, sir, but we've got bigger problems. The reactor's going critical. Some kind of cascade effect. This whole planetoid is about to be consumed. Armstrong clasped his shoulder. I know what I'm asking, son, but you're our only shot. Ortez took a deep breath and nodded. He approached the pulsing core, connection cables snaking from his neural port. As he made contact, his body went rigid, eyes rolling back in his head. The chamber trembled as the entropic cascade began. Armstrong watched helplessly as Ortez's face contorted in agony, praying they hadn't come this far only to fail at the final hurdle. Ortez's body convulsed as the neural interface seared his consciousness into the outpost systems. Armstrong watched helplessly as his officer's eyes rolled back, unseeing. In an instant, Ortez found himself thrust into a realm beyond comprehension. His awareness expanded, becoming a vast stellar entity locked in cosmic combat with the Overlord's digital avatar. Quantum weaponry flared from Ortez's newfound form, lancing through the void to shatter the Overlord's entropic barriers. Back in the physical realm, Armstrong's comm crackled. Sir, we've got incoming, Adler shouted over the sound of weapons fire. To core drones, dozens of them. Armstrong gritted his teeth, raising his rifle. Hold the line, Captain. We can't let them reach Ortez. The chamber erupted into chaos as corrupted T-Core sentinels poured through the entrance. Armstrong and Adler fought with grim efficiency, but the tide of enemies seemed endless. The Overlord's presence loomed. You cannot hope to comprehend what you've accessed, insect, it intoned. Let me show you true cosmic horror. Nightmarish visions assaulted Ortez's mind. He saw Earth consumed by entropy, his comrades torn apart by impossible geometries, entire galaxies collapsing into nothingness. But beneath the onslaught, Ortez glimpsed his objective, the Singularity's command keys. A thunderous boom shook the outpost. Through wavering sensors, Armstrong detected new energy signatures. It's Vrel, he shouted. Her fleet's breaking through. Expansionist warships rained fire upon the planetoid's surface, blasting through layers of ancient defenses. The onslaught gave Armstrong and Adler a moment's respite, but Ortez remained locked in his virtual struggle. Ortez steeled himself against the Overlord's psychic assault. He embraced the fear, the doubt, the crushing weight of responsibility, and channeled it into razor-sharp focus. With newfound clarity, he deciphered the termination codes. Talbot, Ortez's voice rasped through the comms. Receiving data burst, implement the protocols. As Ortez's consciousness faded, Talbot sprang into action. His neural implants interfaced with Earth's scattered defense grid, transmitting the containment codes. Antimatter warheads flared to life along the Singularity's perimeter, their detonations momentarily halting its expansion. His words died as alarms blared. Talbot's frantic voice cut through the chaos. Sir, the Overlord, it's hijacking the network. The Singularity, it's changing course. Horror dawned on Armstrong as he realized the implications. The entropic void now curved inward, its hungering maw aimed directly at humanity's last refuges. "Options, Ensign," Armstrong barked. Talbot's reply was tinged with desperation. There's one possibility, sir. The Takor Dyson sphere. If we can activate it, channel its energy through the Andari defense grid." "Do it," Armstrong ordered, knowing full well the risks. As Talbot worked feverishly, Vrel's ship docked with the outpost. The expansionist admiral strode into the chamber, her eyes widening at the carnage. "I have what remains of the Urbine data," she announced. "Will it be enough?" Talbot's voice crackled over the comms one final time. "Initiating power-up sequence. Hypergate array online. If this works, well, it's been an honor serving with you all." The Dyson sphere blazed to life, its unfathomable energies coursing through the jury-rigged defenses. As twin forces of cosmic power collided, entropy versus rebirth, Armstrong watched the sensors overload and fail. In that moment of uncertainty, he allowed himself to hope that somehow, against the odds, humanity might yet survive the... "Status report," he barked, gripping the command rail as the ship shuddered. "Scattered, but mostly intact," Chen replied. "Civilian transports are reporting heavy strain on their warp cores, but they're holding formation." A priority transmission cut through the chaos. Armstrong's breath caught as he recognized the source, the Dyson Sphere facility. Ensign Talbot's face flickered into view, distorted by static. "Captain," Talbot's voice crackled, "the singularity, it's not what we thought. The Overlord, higher dimensional rift, entropy plane, erase all ships, emergency jump," Armstrong ordered. "Get us clear of the anomaly's expansion zone." "Sir," Chen interrupted his thoughts, "I'm picking up a signal. It's Andari in origin." Armstrong leaned forward. "On screen." "Matriarch," Armstrong acknowledged. "We're gathering all survivors. What's your situation?" Armstrong's eyes narrowed. "Tell me everything." As Jivala relayed the legend of the Andari superweapon, Armstrong felt a flicker of hope. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. "Understood," he said. "We'll rendezvous at these coordinates. Prepare your data for transfer." No sooner had the transmission ended than alarms blared across the bridge. A massive energy signature warped into existence nearby. A Takor battlecruiser. "Weapons hot," Armstrong ordered, but Chen's voice cut through the tension. "Sir, they're hailing us. It's Admiral Kavari?" The Takor commander's scarred visage filled the view screen. "Captain Armstrong," he rumbled, "it seems we have a common enemy once more." Kavari explained the dire threat posed by the dispersing Overlord fragments. As the Takor spoke, Armstrong's tactical mind whirred into action. He needed to find the Dreampire, but he couldn't ignore the immediate danger of the Overlord splinters. "Very well, Admiral," Armstrong decided. "We'll combine our forces, but I need your word. This is an alliance of equals, no betrayals." Kavari's alien features twisted into what might have been a smile. "You have it, Captain. Now shall we go hunting?" Adler saluted crisply. "Understood, sir. We won't let you down." As Adler's team prepared for their mission, Armstrong faced the view screen. The vastness of space seemed to mock their efforts, but he pushed aside the creeping dread. They had a chance, slim as it was, and he'd be damned if he didn't take it. The combined human and Takor fleet engaged their drives, plunging into the cosmic maelstrom. As they vanished into faster than light, the twin singularities continued their inexorable expansion, reality itself crumbling in their wake. The twin singularities tore through space-time, leaving devastation in their wake. On the bridge of the Defiant, Armstrong's teeth clenched as he absorbed the gravity of their situation. "Chen, status report on the fleet," he ordered, eyes fixed on the tactical display. "All ships accounted for, sir. Minimal damage sustained during the jump." Armstrong nodded, his mind racing. The threat had evolved beyond their worst nightmares, but they weren't out of options yet. He turned to face his assembled officers. "Listen up, we're splitting our forces. Adler, you'll lead the search for the Dreampire. Take Vex, Rain, and Dr. Malik with you. Follow the Andari psychic imprints. It's our best lead. Adler saluted. Understood, sir. We won't let you down. The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as orders were relayed and preparations made. Armstrong opened a channel to Kavari's battlecruiser. Admiral, we're ready to begin operations. What's our first target? Kavari's gravelly voice filled the comm. Long-range sensors detected Overlord energy signatures near an abandoned Tukor shipyard. We believe a fragment is attempting to hijack the facility's drone factories. Understood. We'll rendezvous at these coordinates. As the combined fleet engaged their drives, Adler's team prepared for their own mission. In the hangar bay, Vex Rain double-checked his gear, cybernetic implants gleaming under the harsh lights. Rain nodded. Good. We'll need every advantage we can get. All right, people. Our destination is a war-torn fringe colony. Stay sharp. We don't know what we'll find down there. Armstrong leaned forward. Kavari, are you seeing this? Affirmative, the Tukor admiral growled. The Overlord fragment is corrupting the facilities. We must act quickly. We need to cut them off at the source, Armstrong realized. Kavari, can your ships penetrate the shipyard's outer defenses? Armstrong saw his opening. All ships, concentrate fire on those breaches. We're going in. The Defiant plunged into the shipyard's superstructure, maneuvering through a maze of twisted metal. They emerged into a cavernous assembly hall where corrupted fabricators churned out endless waves of drones. There, Chen pointed to a pulsing sphere of energy at the center of the chamber. The quantum singularity powering the reactors. The Overlord fragment is inside. Armstrong's mind raced, calculating trajectories and yield requirements. Helm, bring us in close. Weapons, prepare to fire on my mark. We've got one shot at this. His thoughts were interrupted by an urgent transmission from Adler's team. The captain's face was grim as it flickered onto the view screen. Sir, we've got a problem. We found the Andari imprints, but we were ambushed by expansionist loyalists. They've taken Rain. The pieces fell into place with terrible clarity. Armstrong turned to Chen. Plot a course for Avalon, maximum speed. As the fleet prepared to jump, Armstrong stared out at the stars. The next battle would determine the future of the stars itself. The harsh terrain of Avalon stretched before Captain Adler's Marine squad as they advanced under the cover of twisted rock formations. Plasma bolts sizzled past, superheating the air. Contact left, Sergeant Reeves bellowed. The Marines pivoted, returning fire at the mercenary positions. Adler's comm crackled. Captain, we've pinpointed Rain's location. Transmitting coordinates now. Sir, Dr. Malik's voice cut through the chaos. I'm boosting Rain's cyberware now. If I can just... The psychic assault ceased as abruptly as it began. Adler blinked, disoriented. Report! It's Rain, sir, Malik explained. He's interfacing with the planet itself, convincing it we're not here to weaponize the Dreampire. Moments later, the ground beneath their feet shuddered. Ancient stone structures rose from the depths, revealing a yawning chasm. Adler nodded. Understood, sir. We're Oscar Mike. Proximity alarms blared. Rain's eyes widened. Multiple hostiles incoming. Mercenaries poured into the chamber, weapons blazing. Adler's Marines formed a defensive perimeter. A searing pain tore through Adler's side. He stumbled, vision blurring. Go! He shouted, seeing Rain and Malik retreating with the Dreampire. The staccato of weapons fire intensified. Then a familiar rumble filled the air. Armstrong's ships had arrived. Adler felt strong hands hauling him to his feet. The world spun as they raced for the extraction point. Sir, Chen reported, we're outgunned 10-1. Malik nodded hesitantly. I believe so, but the power involved... Malik's fingers flew across her console, establishing a connection through her cyberware. The Dreampire flared to life, tendrils of energy arcing towards the scientist. The view screen erupted in prismatic chaos as the Overlord Matrix destabilized. Helm! Armstrong barked. Plot a slipstream jump. Get us out of here. The answer came from an unexpected source. Matriarch Javala's hologram flickered to life, her alien features etched with urgency. "Captain Armstrong," she intoned, "you have done well to secure the artifact. But to wield its power, to mend the cosmic rift, we require an Andari mind chanter of unparalleled strength." Javala's eyes gleamed. "On the edge of dead space lies our final hope, a stronghold where one of our demigods still slumbers. Only they possess the power to reshape reality itself." As the coordinates streamed in, Armstrong felt the weight of galaxies upon his shoulders. Their next move would determine the fate of existence itself. "Multiple contacts," Chen called out. "Automated defender drones closing fast." The fleet scattered, antimatter torpedoes streaking through the void. Drones exploded in silent bursts of light, only to be replaced by waves of reinforcements pouring from hidden hangars. "You okay, Doc?" Rain asked. The shuttle rocked as it evaded defensive fire. Captain Adler's voice crackled over the comms. "Strike team, prepare for insertion. We've located a breach in the Fortress of E's outer defenses." Rain felt the familiar surge of adrenaline as the shuttle plunged towards the planetoid's surface. They touched down hard, the team spilling out onto alien soil. Rain's cybernetics flared to life, creating a buffer against the worst of the psychic assault. He grabbed Malik's arm, steadying her. "Focus on me, Doc. We're almost there." Finally, they reached a massive door of swirling energy. Malik approached, her hands hovering over the cryptic controls. "This is it, the time stream nexus where Zarthos sleeps." As Malik worked to decipher the lock, Rain's comm crackled to life. Armstrong's voice was tight with tension. "Strike team, be advised. We've detected Overlord activity in the system. You need to wake Zarthos now." The door dissolved, revealing a chamber that defied comprehension. At its center floated a being of pure energy, tendrils of thought spiraling outwards in fractal patterns. Malik's eyes widened. "Zarthos?" Rain stepped forward, his augmented mind reaching out to the slumbering demigod. Images flooded his consciousness, millennia of history, entire galaxies born and dying, the very fabric of reality bending to Zarthos's will. "Wake up," Rain whispered, his voice echoing across dimensions. "We need you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a rush of power that sent everyone staggering, Zarthos's consciousness snapped into focus, the energy being coalesced, taking on a vaguely humanoid form. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" Zarthos's voice reverberated through their minds. Before Rain could respond, the fortress shook violently. Outside, the void erupted in apocalyptic fury as the Overlord Matrix launched its assault. Rain nodded. "Yes, but we need your help." Zarthos's form shimmered, calculations beyond human comprehension racing through his vast mind. "It can be done, but the price, it will unmake you, mortal." Rain felt a chill run down his spine, but his voice remained steady. "What do you need me to do?" "Your mind, your very essence, will become the conduit through which I channel the power of creation," Zarthos explained. "You will cease to exist as you are now." Adler stepped forward. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Rain cut him off. He met Zarthos's gaze. "I'll do it." The fortress trembled again as the battle raged outside. Zarthos's form expanded, filling the chamber with tendrils of cosmic energy. "Then let us begin." As Zarthos led them to the quantum spire atop the sanctuary, Armstrong's voice came through once more. "We can't hold them back much longer. Whatever you're going to do it now." Rain took his position at the center of the spire, the Dreampire artifact hovering before him. Zarthos's consciousness enveloped him, and Rain felt his perception expanding beyond the confines of his mortal form. "Concentrate," Zarthos commanded. "Focus on the rift, on the wounds in reality itself." And then the pain began. Cosmic energies surged through Rain's body, every atom aflame with the power of creation itself. He screamed, but no sound escaped his lips. His flesh began to dissolve, replaced by pure energy. Antimatter warheads detonated in silent fury. Entropic weapons tore holes in the very substance of space. And atop the quantum spire, Rain's form blazed like a newborn star as reality itself began to bend to Zarthos's will. Through eyes that no longer existed, Rain witnessed reality's fracture and reform. His mind stretched across the cosmos, touching the very edges of existence. He saw the twin singularities tearing through space-time, felt the fabric of reality unraveling. Rain's fragmented psyche latched onto the artifact's power. Energy surged through the quantum spire, reality itself bending around them. Outside, Kavari's T-Core ships engaged the Overlord swarms in a desperate dance of destruction. Antimatter torpedoes and entropic beams crisscrossed the void. On the Defiance bridge, Armstrong's fist clenched as he gripped the command chair. "Status on the strike team?" "They've breached the Overlord's stabilization hub," Chen reported, her voice tight. "Heavy resistance." In the bowels of the Overlord construct, Adler ducked as a plasma bolt seared the air above him. "Push forward!" he shouted, returning fire. His Marines advanced, methodically clearing the twisting corridors. Each step brought them closer to the hub's core. "Plant the charges," Adler ordered. "Disrupt those entropic links." As his team worked, Adler felt the air shimmer. Reality itself seemed to warp around them. Zarthos's form expanded, filling the chamber with tendrils of pure creation. "Now," the ancient being intoned, "we seal the rift." A flood of Dreampire energy erupted from the spire. Reality unraveled, the very substance of space-time twisting into impossible geometries. Rain's fragmenting mind screamed silently as it channeled forces beyond comprehension. He saw every possible outcome, every potential universe, collapsing into a single point of infinite potential. In that moment, as existence itself teetered on the brink of oblivion, Zarthos unleashed the full power of the ritual. As the light faded, Zarthos's omnipotent psyche dissipated, the ancient being's essence merging with the cosmic background radiation. Rain's consciousness shattered, fragments of his self scattering across space-time fractals. Armstrong closed his eyes, feeling the weight of Pyrrhic victory. They'd sealed the rift, but at what cost? Without Rain's unwavering hope, without her spark of humanity to light the way. Armstrong's eyes snapped open, his mind still reeling from the cosmic aftermath. The bridge of the Defiant hummed with subdued activity, the crew processing the magnitude of their Pyrrhic victory. "Sir," Chen's voice cut through the haze. "Priority transmission from Colonial Command." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a grim-faced admiral. "Armstrong, we have a situation. Admiral Virix has seized control of outlying territories. He's subjugating alien populations with extreme prejudice." As the Defiant and its battered fleet altered course, tactical displays lit up with dire projections. Their depleted forces were no match for Virix's rebuilt armada. 12 hours into their pursuit, sensors picked up an anomaly. A lone human scout ship drifted in the void, its hull scarred by recent combat. Norris's eyes darted off-screen. "Engines are shot, but that's the least of our problems. We've found something big." The colonel's coordinates led them to a massive derelict warship, its alien hull pitted and scored by millennia adrift. It hung silently near a pulsing neutron star, bathed in waves of intense radiation. Armstrong weighed his options. With Virix's forces closing in, they had precious little time. Prepare a boarding party, full hazard protocols. "Watch yourselves in there. This tech, it's old, older than the Andari. We're talking precursor-level stuff." No sooner had the words left his mouth than a sentry drone materialized, its crystalline frame jam-packed with weapon ports. The Marines opened fire, their rounds barely scratching its surface. "Fall back," Armstrong ordered, diving for cover as the drone unleashed a barrage of energy pulses. They fought their way through twisting corridors, facing waves of increasingly sophisticated defenses. At last, they reached the ship's core V, a pulsating quantum node that defied comprehension. "It's encrypted," Chen reported, her hollow interface flickering wildly. "Some kind of fractal pattern. Without Rain's expertise." Armstrong's fist clenched at the mention of their fallen comrade. "We take it with us. Maybe our Xenotech division can crack it." "All hands! Battle stations!" Armstrong barked, strapping into the command chair. The void erupted in furious light as antimatter torpedoes and plasma lances crisscrossed space. The Defiant shuddered under the assault, its shields flickering. Armstrong's mind raced, searching for options that didn't exist. Then, without warning, the neutron star flared. A concentrated burst of gamma radiation washed over them, momentarily overloading their sensors. When the static cleared, Armstrong's eyes widened in disbelief. Where the alien derelict had been, a colossal war machine now hung in space. Its hull rippled with impossible geometries, weapon ports larger than the Defiant itself opening along its flanks. Before Armstrong could react, a shimmering hologram materialized on the bridge. A being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting, regarded them with alien intensity. "You have awakened us," it intoned, its voice resonating on multiple frequencies. "We are the last legacy of those you call precursors. Our purpose to test those who would claim dominion over this galaxy." The being's gaze fell upon Armstrong. "You command this vessel. Prove your species worthy of our power, human. Our energy wanes. Use us well." As the hologram faded, tactical displays lit up with the war machine's overwhelming firepower. Armstrong's grip tightened on his chair, his mind grappling with the magnitude of this discovery. "Sir," Chen's voice cut through his thoughts, "Vyrex's fleet is regrouping. Your orders?" "Prepare to engage," he commanded, his voice steady. "Let's show them what humanity is capable of." The precursor dreadnought loomed before them, its impossible geometries defying human comprehension. Armstrong steeled himself, acutely aware of the weight of his next decision. Vrel's eyes narrowed. "This is bigger than your vendetta, Armstrong. My urbine constructs have detected a transdimensional incursion. If we don't act now, we may lose everything we've fought for." "All hands, battle stations," Armstrong barked. Colonel Norris's voice crackled over the comms. "Coordinating combat matrices now. We've got them on the run, Captain." Suddenly, proximity alarms blared. The urbine constructs peeled away, their sleek forms accelerating towards a distant nebula cluster. "Vrel!" Armstrong shouted. "What are you doing?" The Admiral's face was grim. "I told you, Captain. We don't have a choice." "Sir," Chen reported, her voice tight, "Vyrex's remnants are regrouping. We can't hold them off alone." Armstrong's fist clenched. "Damn it! All ships, prepare for tactical retreat. We're not done here." As the Defiant limped away, Armstrong's mind raced. They'd been so close to ending this war, only to have victory snatched away. But Vrel's words nagged at him. What could be more pressing than Vyrex's threat? Hours later, deep in the nebula cluster, Vrel's fleet approached a shimmering distortion in space. The urban constructs arrayed themselves around the anomaly, their sensors probing its depths. "Analysis complete," an urbine liaison reported. "Confirmed pocket dimension rupture. Origin, the Alien King's flagship." Before Vrel could respond, a priority transmission cut through. Armstrong's face materialized, his expression thunderous. "You've got some explaining to do, Admiral." Vrel's lips thinned. "I'm sending you our sensor data now, Captain. This threat dwarfs Vyrex's ambitions. We're dealing with a cosmic artifact, the Miraxis. It's capable of reflecting alternate timeline fractals into real space." Armstrong's brow furrowed as he processed the information. "And you need the dreadnought to neutralize it." Armstrong's eyes narrowed, weighing the proposal. The potential was staggering, but could he trust Vrel? "You have my word, Captain," Vrel pressed. "This is bigger than our past conflicts. The fate of reality itself hangs in the balance." After a long moment, Armstrong nodded. "Agreed, but Norris reports directly to me. Any sign of betrayal, and I'll turn that dreadnought on you myself." The combined fleet assembled before the dimensional rift. Norris's team, alongside Vrel's urbine allies, prepared for insertion. As the boarding craft launched, reality itself seemed to warp and twist around them. "All units, stay focused," Norris commanded. "We're entering a hostile pocket dimension. Expect the unexpected." The moment they breached the rift, chaos erupted. Shifting fractal reality mazes sprawled before them, psycho-incantational energies warping the very fabric of space-time. They fought through impossible geometries, reality fragmenting and reassembling with each step. Renegade loyalists of the alien king materialized from fractured timelines, their forms twisted by dimensional instability. After what felt like hours of mind-bending combat, Norris's team finally reached their objective. The massive chamber pulsed with otherworldly energy, the Meraxis floating at its center. With a gesture, the Meraxis flared to life. Reality fractured, the chamber dissolving into an unstable, never-born realm of twisted spacetime. Norris and his team found themselves adrift in a sea of possibility, the very concept of existence unraveling around them. As the false king's laughter echoed through fractured dimensions, Norris realized the true scale of their challenge. This was no longer a battle for mere galactic dominance. The fate of reality itself hung in the balance. The cosmic maelstrom churned around Norris and his team, reality fragmenting into kaleidoscopic shards. The alien king's laughter reverberated through fractured dimensions, each echo twisting the laws of physics. "Norris!" Armstrong's voice crackled through the quantum static. "The Meraxis is destabilizing everything. We're initiating emergency protocols." Before Norris could respond, a surge of energy coursed through his cybernetic implants. His body tensed, muscles locking as the dreadnought's entropic shielding flowed into him and his squad. "You cannot hope to comprehend the forces at play," the king's voice boomed, simultaneously distant and deafeningly close. "Your strategies are but child's play to one who has mastered reality itself." As if to prove his point, the avatar split into 1,000 mirror images of Armstrong himself, each one sneering with contempt. His squad moved with practiced precision, their hardened forms cutting through the reality distortions. Pulse rifles spat superheated plasma, each shot guided by Armstrong's tactical feeds. "Armstrong!" Norris shouted over the comms. "Vrel's making her move." The captain's response was grim. "I know. Brace yourselves." The world exploded. The precursor dreadnought's cyclonic cannons tore through reality itself, rupturing quantum fracture points. The alien king's avatar reeled, its form stretching and distorting as it struggled to contain the cascading instabilities. In that moment of weakness, Norris saw it via a singular point of coherent reality amidst the chaos. "There!" he barked. "All units concentrate fire." The combined firepower of Norris's team converged on the focal point. The avatar howled, its cosmic form beginning to unravel. Then, with a sound that defied description, the dreadnought itself plunged through the rift. Its massive bulk slammed into the alien king's psychic core, shattering the transdimensional being into cosmic fragments. As quickly as it began, it was over. The Meraxis went dark, its reality-warping power neutralized. The chamber around them solidified, but something was wrong. The stars visible through the viewport were different, dimmer somehow. "Report!" Armstrong's voice came through, strained but steady. Armstrong's response was grim. "Unknown. The portals collapsed. We're cut off from our own universe." As the implications sank in, Norris turned his gaze to the unfamiliar stars. They seemed to be burning out at an accelerated rate, entire systems winking out of existence before his eyes. Armstrong's silence spoke volumes. When he finally replied, his words sent a chill down Norris's spine. Norris tightened his grip on his rifle, watching as a shadow began to eclipse the dying stars. The true test, it seemed, was only just beginning. The shadow engulfed the last dying star, plunging Norris and his team into absolute darkness. For a moment, only the rhythmic thrum of the dreadnought systems punctuated the void. Reality twisted as the dreadnought's drive core pulsed. Norris felt his insides lurch, his cybernetic implants struggling to compensate for the dimensional shift. When the disorientation faded, a faint red glow illuminated the viewport. They emerged in a graveyard of dead stars, their husks drifting lifelessly through the cosmic currents. In the distance, a small outpost clung to the remnants of a shattered planet. "Sir," Chen's voice came through, strained but steady. "We've regrouped with the surviving ships. Docking now." As they approached the outpost, Norris noticed the other vessels. Their hulls were scorched, armor plates warped by forces beyond comprehension. the remnants of Earth's proud fleet, now battered refugees in an alien cosmos. "Report," Armstrong ordered, his voice carrying the weight of their situation. Norris stepped forward, activating his neural link to project the data gathered during their escape. "Sir, preliminary scans show accelerated entropic decay across this entire sector. Stars are burning out at impossible rates." The hologram shifted, displaying a time-lapse of constellations winking out of existence. Armstrong's teeth clenched as he watched entire galaxies vanish in the span of seconds. "And the entity we encountered?" he asked. Norris hesitated. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors couldn't penetrate its outer shell. But—" He trailed off, unsure how to articulate the bone-deep terror he'd felt in its presence. Armstrong nodded, understanding. The hologram updated, showing vast, amorphous shapes moving through the cosmic wreckage. Their forms defied easy classification, existing somewhere between matter and energy. "They're harvesting," Armstrong murmured, his eyes fixed on the display. "But for what purpose?" Before anyone could respond, alarms blared. Chen's eyes widened as she read the incoming data. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, her voice tight. The hologram shifted again, displaying a series of complex equations and dimensional maps. Norris felt his implants struggle to process the information. "Sir?" Norris prompted. A hush fell over the command center. Armstrong continued, his words carefully measured. Norris felt the weight of Armstrong's words settle over him. The scale of what they faced was beyond comprehension. Norris raised an eyebrow. "Sir, Vrel betrayed us." "She did," Armstrong nodded. "But right now, she's our only hope of reaching the Fra Arn's manifold. We'll offer her the truth about what we're facing in exchange for her help." As Chen worked to establish the connection, Armstrong's gaze returned to the holographic display. The Fra Arn's massive forms continued their inexorable advance, devouring what remained of this dying universe. "Make no mistake," Armstrong said, his voice low. "This is our darkest hour, but I intend to see humanity endure, even if we have to rewrite the laws of cosmic existence to do it." The comms crackled to life, Admiral Vrel's face materializing before them. Her expression was wary, but there was a hint of curiosity in her eyes. "Captain Armstrong," she said coolly, "I trust you have a compelling reason for this communication?" Armstrong met her gaze unflinchingly. "Admiral Vrel, I have information that will change everything you thought you knew about our universe. But first, I need your word that you'll hear me out." As Armstrong began to explain the true nature of the Freyarn and the cosmic cycle they perpetuated, Norris turned his attention back to the viewport. In the distance, another star winked out of existence, devoured by the insatiable hunger of beings older than time itself. "Very well, Armstrong. What's your plan?" The next hours blurred into a frenzy of preparation. Armstrong briefed his team on the bold strategy ahead, breaching the Fra Arn's interdimensional manifold to either seize control or trigger a system purge. Norris stood at attention as Armstrong outlined the infiltration squad. "Myself, Adler, Kavari, and you, Colonel." The AI avatar nodded, its photonic form shimmering. "My systems are primed and ready, sir." As Vrel's technicians integrated the Meraxis-derived celestial codes into the Dreadnought's navigation systems, Armstrong felt the weight of countless lives settling onto his shoulders. This was humanity's last stand, not just for their reality, but for the very concept of existence itself. The Dreadnought shuddered as it punched through dimensional boundaries. Reality blurred, space-time folding like origami around them. Through the viewport, Norris watched Fra Arn harvesters methodically devouring entire galaxies. "Incoming!" Chen's voice cracked over the comms. "Multiple Fra Arn constructs on intercept course." The ship rocked as reality-fracturing beams slammed into their shields. Armstrong gritted his teeth. "Evasive maneuvers, all power to forward batteries." As the Dreadnought's guns blazed, carving swaths through the cosmic abominations, Armstrong led his team to the hangar. They climbed into the stealth craft, its hull gleaming with experimental metaphysical shielding. "Remember," Armstrong said as they strapped in, "once we breach the manifold, we'll be utterly exposed to the Fra Arn's sentience. Steel yourselves." The hangar doors yawned open, revealing a cyclopean rift in the fabric of space-time. Armstrong took a deep breath and engaged the thrusters. They plunged into the void. For an eternity compressed into nanoseconds, they ceased to exist. Then, with a lurch that defied physical description, they materialized in a realm beyond comprehension. Suddenly, their minds were assaulted by visions of cosmic scale. Infinite realities stretched before them, each one systematically harvested and recycled. Norris saw civilizations rise and fall in the blink of an eye, entire universal cycles condensed into fleeting moments. "Push through it," Armstrong's voice cut through the psychic onslaught. "We need to find those uplink nodes." "There," she shouted, pointing to a nexus of hyperdimensional threads. "I can interface from here." As Kavari connected with the quantum data threads, Norris felt a shift in the fabric of reality around them. The harvester swarms in the distance began to move erratically. Their targets scrambled across dimensional planes. "It's working," Armstrong said, his voice taut with concentration. "Norris, establish the link. We need to override those harvesters now." Norris felt his consciousness expand, connecting to the dreadnought light years away. Through him, Armstrong's commands flowed, rewriting the very laws that govern this pocket of existence. For a moment, hope flared. Then a presence vaster than galaxies turned its attention upon them. The Frarn had noticed. "Hurry!" Adler shouted as reality began to warp around them. "They're coming!" Armstrong's fingers flew across holographic interfaces, seeding the spark of a new universe even as the old one crumbled. Norris felt the strain on his systems as he channeled impossible amounts of data. "It's done!" Armstrong yelled. "Brace for metaphysical detonation." Then gradually, sensation returned. Norris opened his eyes to a scene of devastation. The dreadnought's bridge was in ruins, emergency lighting casting everything in a hellish red glow. Armstrong stirred beside him, blood trickling from his nose. "Status report," he croaked. "Sir," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We've succeeded in creating a new universe, but—" He trailed off, unable to fully process the data before him. Through the cracked viewport, they could see it, a violently expanding maelstrom of degenerate matter and energy, the building blocks of a cosmos yet to be born. Armstrong's face was grim as he surveyed the cosmic carnage. "And our universe? Our homes?" Norris shook his head slowly. "Gone, sir. Everything we knew has been reduced to its constituent particles." As the implications sank in, alarms began to blare throughout the ship. Chen's voice, weak but determined, came over the comms. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations. This new universe, it's unstable. If we don't act fast, it could collapse in on itself." Armstrong straightened, his eyes blazing with renewed purpose. "Then we have work to do. Norris, get me a full systems analysis. Chen, I need options for stabilizing this cosmic egg." As the crew scrambled to action, Norris gazed out at the churning sea of creation before them. They had saved existence itself from the Fra'arn's endless cycle, but at what cost? And what challenges lay ahead in shaping this newborn universe? The alarms continued to wail as the dreadnought, last bastion of humanity, drifted into the cosmic maelstrom. The churning maelstrom of creation filled the viewport, a chaotic sea of matter and energy that bore little resemblance to their former universe. Armstrong gripped the edge of a damaged console, his fist clenched as he processed Chen's words. "Options for stabilizing this cosmic egg?" he repeated, his mind racing. "We need more than options. We need a miracle." Before Chen could respond, a violent tremor shook the ship. Sparks erupted from overloaded circuits as the dreadnought groaned under the strain of primordial forces. "Hull integrity compromised," Norris shouted, his artificial synapses struggling to keep up with the flood of data. "We're being torn apart at the molecular level." "Captain," Kavari's voice crackled through the static, "we found something in the precursor database, a way to create a pocket dimension." Adler's fingers danced across an unseen interface. "We can use the cyclonic cannons to fabricate a void realm. It won't be permanent, but it could buy us enough time for this new universe to stabilize." With a sound that defied description, Reality itself parted. The dreadnought lurched forward, crossing the threshold into a dimensionally self-contained micro-ecosystem. As the void realm sealed behind them, Armstrong allowed himself a moment of relief. "The precursor matrices can't handle the strain," Norris reported grimly. "We're losing the dreadnought." Armstrong nodded, his face set with stubborn persistence. "Then we wait, and we pray that this universe forms faster than our shelter crumbles." Armstrong didn't hesitate. "Prepare for emergency evacuation. We're going to terraform on the fly." As the dust settled, Armstrong emerged from his pod, surveying the harsh landscape. The air was thin and acrid, the ground unstable beneath his feet. But it was a beginning. He activated his comm unit. "This is Armstrong. All teams report in." One by one, voices crackled over the channel. Norris, Chen, Adler, Kavari, they had survived. As had nearly 300 others, the last remnants of humanity scattered across this alien world. Armstrong's gaze turned to the horizon, where the first hints of a terraformed atmosphere were beginning to take shape. "Welcome to New Eden," he said softly. "Our new home." In that moment, the weight of their situation truly hit him. They were more than survivors now. They were the progenitors of an entire reality, the seeds from which a new humanity would grow. As the others gathered around him, Armstrong's mind was already racing with plans. They would need to establish a sustainable colony, begin long-term terraforming efforts, and eventually look to the stars once more. "Sir," Norris interrupted his thoughts, "what are your orders?" The sun rose on New Eden, its light filtering through the slowly clearing atmosphere. Decades had passed since that first dawn, and the planet had transformed. Lush vegetation now covered vast swaths of land, fed by rivers that flowed with fresh, clean water. The air, once toxic and thin, now sustained a thriving ecosystem. Admiral Armstrong stood atop a hill overlooking the main colony, his once dark hair now streaked with gray. He leaned heavily on a cane, his body bearing the scars of countless battles and the toll of building a new world from scratch. "Norris," he gasped, "I need medical assistance." Within minutes, a team rushed to his side. As they loaded him onto a stretcher, Armstrong's eyes met those of Colonel Adler, who had sprinted up the hill at the first sign of trouble. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Doctors and nurses swarmed around Armstrong, their faces grim as they fought to stabilize him. But as the machines beeped and whirred, Armstrong knew the truth. This wasn't a battle he could win. "There's more," Armstrong continued, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "The precursors. They're simulations. This universe, it's not the first. The Fra Arn, they always come." Adler leaned in closer, struggling to hear Armstrong's fading words. "What do you mean, sir?" As the medical team rushed to perform last-ditch efforts, Adler stepped back, his legs shaking. He looked out the window at the thriving world they had built, at the ships preparing for their first interstellar voyages. A chill ran down his spine as Armstrong's final words echoed in his mind. Whatever threats lurked beyond their knowledge, Adler knew humanity would face them head-on. They had survived the end of one universe. They would endure whatever this new one had in store. As the room erupted into a flurry of activity, Adler's gaze drifted back to the window. In the distance, a gleaming starship rose from its launch pad, embarking on humanity's first journey to the stars of this new universe. Little did they know, those same stars harbored ancient threats beyond their comprehension, waiting to test the mettle of this reborn civilization.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.